Hello, everyone. I'm Jackson Schock, and welcome to Torch Sports. We've got men's and women's hoops coverage and a preview of Super Bowl 58. So stick with us. Without further ado, allow me to introduce our Orange Zone crew: Zach Pelfrey, Luca Tao, Colton Pennington. Let's jump right in. Last Saturday, the Vols jumped back into the win column after hitting the 100-point mark and taking down Kentucky. Now, if you want to play that encompasses this game as a whole, look no further than this play right here. Zakai Ziegler, Josiah Jordan-James for three. Those two are our main characters tonight. Of course, you can't mention Tennessee basketball without Dalton Knecht. 16, 2, and 4 tonight. That's a quiet game considering he averages about 20. Anyways, Jordan Gainey, tough J from the line, but Zakai Ziegler is our main character tonight. 26 points, 13 assists. Ridiculous. And we can't forget about his sidekick, Josiah Jordan-James, with the slam off the oop. Look, the offense was firing on all cylinders. James puts up another three. He extends the Vols' lead. Speaking of James, he had about 26 points on Saturday. He was hooping. I mean, the whole Tennessee squad was hooping. He especially, him and Zakai, balling. Of course, can't mention the Vols without Santiago. He was balling too. We ended free throws in this one, but of course, we got to hit the 100-point mark, especially against Kentucky. This is a fun one. Adu's going to put us there, and one. We hit 100. They end up passing their 100, and they win the game. So obviously we saw the 100-point mark win, huge LSU win too on Wednesday. This is feeling good, especially coming off that tough loss against South Carolina. What do we go for? Like, what's working well for the Vols right now?
We're just playing really, really good offensively right now. I mean, we've been good defensively every year under Rick Barnes, pretty much. But this year, the offense is way better. This is the highest ranked offense we've had since the 2018-19 season, where we finished number six in the AP poll, made the Sweet 16. But yeah, we just shot really well from three in this game too. This was the fifth game this year where we shot 40% from three. We've won every single game that we've shot 40% from three. And yeah, I really like the way this offense is playing right now. We move on to LSU. We played great offensively against LSU too. We've got some tough games coming up, especially those last four games at the end of the season are crazy, crazy tough. Probably the toughest games we've had so far. So we've got to continue this offensive role that we've got going on here, especially with Josiah Jordan-James. I mean, he's stepping up. That's his first game over 10 points since December 16th.
Yep.
So he's got to keep. He's, I think, the X factor in this game. If he can continue to score at that level, then I think our ceiling is way, way higher.
Especially nice considering the Rick Barnes system of basketball does not usually typically end in 100 points. So that felt really good. Zach, what do you think? What do you think's working right now for the Vols?
I think the offense is firing on all cylinders. You know, it was finally nice to have a game where we didn't have to have Dalton Knecht put us on his back. We had, what'd you say, Ziegler with 26, James with 26, and then Knecht still had 17.
Yeah,
we still had him in the game, but this was just a crazy good offensive battle that we had. And not to mention, we won the rebound and free throw game, which was key for us to win this game.
Yeah, Luke?
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. This game was a great game to watch if you're a Vols fan because we kept the turnovers down, but the points up. In the last two games, even including LSU, we had 5 players in the Kentucky game who had double-digit points. We had 4 in LSU game. That's what you want to see from the Vols, as you mentioned. We're used to just seeing kind of Dalton Knecht do his thing, get 30-plus points, and sneak out some wins. But seeing more people contribute has been a great addition to the Vols. And we had, like you said, Ziegler and Adu both had double-doubles against Kentucky, which is great to see from both of them. Yeah. And against LSU, again, Vols are getting off to hot starts, scoring points early and scoring lots of them, which is really good to see going forward.
So we got A&M coming up on Saturday on the road. Obviously, the road has been one of the most difficult places to play, just in general, especially this college season. What do the Vols need to focus on to kind of keep this momentum? They're really, really, really scoring well. They're playing well, but traveling on the road this year has not been easy. What do they need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I got to start by looking at Texas A&M's team. And, just with the brief overview, Wade Taylor is a beast for them. He is by far their best player. He is by far their best scorer. He's averaging I believe it's like 19.9 or something, just under 20 points a game. And he's a great player. But outside of him, they're kind of average, maybe even below average. I'm just not very impressed by the A&M team. So I think for the Vols to keep this momentum going and keep hopefully get another road win is they got to lock down Wade Taylor. If they can do that, I feel like we should win this game pretty handily.
Zach?
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. I think that the Vols have struggled a little bit on the road. To say they've still won comfortably in games on the road, but it's different playing in.
I mean, everyone's struggling on the road.
It struggles. Everybody's struggling on the road. But again, this is kind of a average, like you said, A&M team. But as long as we keep that offense rolling, I think the Vols can win comfortably.
Colton.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about Wade Taylor averaging 19.8 points per game, like you said. But in the games where he scored 30 points or more, which is 5 games this season, they're 1-4. So the problem is they just don't have anybody else other than him. So if we can, if Wade Taylor scores 30-something points, but we limit everybody else, then it's fine. They've got guys like Tyrese Radford, Henry Coleman, who are very, very good. And Texas A&M was projected to finish, I believe, second in the preseason SEC poll at the beginning of the year. They had a lot of guys that came back from last year where they finished as a 7th seed in the tournament. So this is a really, really good basketball team, but they also have lost 2 games at home in SEC play to LSU and Ole Miss, who, I mean, we beat both of them by at least 20 points. So that should bode well, I think, especially, like I said, haven't been unbelievable at home. So hopefully we can go in there and get a nice road win.
You always got to be careful with SEC basketball play, though. I mean, we saw it against
Seriously.
South Carolina, 59 points put up by the Vols. Like, you got to be careful.
You never know. Zach, real quick. Well, everybody, we'll go through our picks. Zach, we'll start with you. Who you got? Tennessee, A&M. Who do you think wins it?
I think the Vols win. Like I said, I think they're going to win comfortably. We mentioned how this is a very average A&M team. And even though it's going to be on the road, we still got to play consistent, but I think the Vols will win.
I got the Vols too. Colton?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tennessee, too. I had them about 77-70, about a 6-7 point win, I think. I think Texas A&M could hold it for a while. They could be in the game, but I think at the end, the Tennessee's talent will just show, and they'll be able to claw it out at the end.
I agree with Rick Barnes. I think this team should be scoring over 80 points a game. I got the Vols winning this one 87-71.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. That's all for the first half of the Orange Zone. But when we return, we're going to take a look at what's to come for this volunteer squad. In the meantime, we're going to send it over to Alexis and the Rocky Top crew. Thank you so much for watching this first half. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Jackson. Now it's time for this week's edition of Rocky Talk. I'm your host, Alexis Ruma, alongside Luke Lamry and Caitlin Gill. It is officially Super Bowl weekend, so it is only appropriate to talk about this electrifying matchup taking place Sunday. The San Francisco 49ers will make their 8th Super Bowl appearance facing the league's current dynasty, the Kansas City Chiefs, who are making their 4th appearance in the last 5 years. So with all that being said, who do you guys have taking home the Lombardi Trophy?
All right, I'm going to start my year with the underdog. This is a 2-point game in favor of the 49ers. I think they are honestly the most complete team of this matchup. I mean, you got an offense of Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and Debo. But that being said, I don't think Purdy is perfect. 5 weeks ago, Christmas, he dropped 4 picks against the Ravens. And that's a great defense. And unfortunately for the 49ers, so are the Chiefs. And the Niners also, this whole postseason, have been fighting from behind. They were down 17 points against the Lions, 24-7 at half. And then my Packers, they were up 21-14 in the 4th quarter. Now, it's impressive, but I don't think it's sustainable. That being said, I think it could be a double-edged sword. Chiefs got to watch out for that, but 49ers also cannot fall that far behind against the Chiefs. You also said Chiefs, 4th Super Bowl appearance in the last 5 years. Mahomes is chasing his 3rd ring. I'm going to go with that experience in Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. They've been in a lot of Super Bowls, and they have a lot of success. And when it comes down to it, I trust that over that. And even the fact that the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl right now, this was Mahomes' worst season statistically. And it wasn't his fault, Kadarius Toney, but he averaged 7 yards per pass this year, which was definitely not his best. But I'm taking the Chiefs' experience over that. It'll be a good game. It'll be close, but I'm excited.
Definitely, yeah. Luke?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, including me, I will admit this, a lot of people underestimated the Chiefs throughout this entire season. And against the Ravens, you started to get that feeling like, maybe they're going to win this, and maybe they're going to the Super Bowl. Maybe they might win the Super Bowl. And sure, I'll say the Ravens didn't show up. In fact, they looked pretty bad. But I think people opened their eyes and said, we have to cut the Chiefs a little more slack here. And yeah, exactly right. You're looking at Vegas right now, who's favoring the 49ers by 2 points. Whereas the Ravens and Chiefs, the Ravens were favored by 4 or 5 points. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, we're looking at a Chiefs team that people are starting to realize has the capabilities of doing this. And so, they're a team that nobody wants to mess with. Chiefs have a dominant run game. Mahomes is throwing the ball. The KC's defense is just stellar right now. But I'll be the first to tell you, the 49ers are stacked on both sides of the ball as well. Yeah. And so this is going to be an absolutely close game. And I think I checked the line this morning. It's down to 0.5, which I've been looking. But it's going to be a close game. I'm excited. But the problem is exactly right. I think Purdy is the key here. Yeah. He threw 4 picks. He's shaky. There's also some other parts of their team that are just not there. But, I think with the KC momentum and I think the lack of production sometimes from the 49ers, I have the Chiefs here. I have the Chiefs.
That being said, though, the Chiefs have had 10 more turnovers than the Chiefs this season. So it could go either way, but I honestly, no offense to Purdy, don't trust him.
Yeah, all right. Well, speaking of dynasties, in the AFC divisional game, Mahomes threw 2 touchdowns to Kelsey to surpass Brady and Gronk as having the most postseason touchdowns from any quarterback and receiver in the NFL history with 16. Since then, debate has been spiraling on who the better duo is, so I'd like to hear, who do you guys think?
Yeah, you know, these type of debates, they really conflict me because you're comparing the greatest quarterback of all time, or arguably the second greatest quarterback of all time, and that might be a hot take. But and you're also looking at 2 of history's top tight ends that, you know, will go down in history as top 10, you know, tight ends in history. And so, and one of these duos is still competing. They're still competing, so it's tough. And so in my opinion, you got to look at the stats. As much as I hate to say it, you got to give it to Kelsey and Mahomes here. I think, you know, and I'll read you the stats. 93 games from Kelsey and Mahomes, 7,000 yards, 53 total touchdowns. And then Brady and Gronk, you have 140 games, and you're looking at 9,000 yards and 93 touchdowns. And I know that's it's hard to envision that, but it's so clear to me that Kelsey and Mahomes, they're still arguably in their prime. They're still playing. They still have a lot of years left, and the key here is longevity. Do they have enough years left to pass it? Absolutely. I give them 3 or 4 years, and they pass those numbers with ease. But it's about longevity. It's about, you know, can they stay healthy? Can they play? When do they start declining in their years? And you look back at Brady, and they said, you know, Brady was 30, and they're like, oh, he's going to start declining. He's going to start playing bad. Well, a decade and a half later, he was still playing, and he was still playing very well. So it's about, you know, 3 things: longevity, health, and, you know, when do they start playing bad? And I don't see that happening anytime soon. I got to give it to Kelsey and Mahomes.
Caitlin?
I definitely agree with you. This is a case of people who are in their prime, in their Super Bowl stride right now, Mahomes and Kelsey. And then you have Brady and Gronk, who have both retired but set the statement for being the best quarterback and tight end duo, arguably, in history. So it's a lot of recency bias here. But also in terms of iconicness, I'm going to give it to Brady and Gronk. They have 11 combined Super Bowls versus Mahomes and Kelsey. They have 4. But also, like you said, longevity. I'd tie that with how long they've had to achieve this. 16 postseason touchdowns was the record that was just broken. Mahomes and Kelsey. They did that in just 7 seasons. And Brady and Gronk had 15 in 11 seasons. So you're looking at an average of about 0.25 touchdowns every postseason versus 2. So that's a big discrepancy when it comes down to stats. But I am going to give the cake to Brady and Gronk because, I mean, that's just iconic on and off the field. But that being said, like you're saying, they're just continuing to grow. So I see Mahomes and Kelsey passing that if they both stay healthy and continue on the track they're on.
Yes, I think both of you made very good points. And now, even though only 2 teams do remain, the NFL Honors Award recognizes the best players this season from any team. As far as MVP and Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year goes, what are your guys' predictions? Caitlin, we'll start with MVP.
All right. I feel like this year it's pretty cut and dry. MVP, you got to give it to Lamar Jackson. I mean, he led this Ravens offense to the best record in the NFL this year, 13-4, and it's no secret. He's a great quarterback. He's great on his feet. Duo threat, he had 4,500 total yards this season, which is incredible, and he's no stranger to being an MVP. This ain't his first rodeo, and I think he gets it again.
Yeah, I got to agree here. I think the only clear candidate is Lamar. I mean, he's the clear front runner. I think maybe the only close candidate is Dak Prescott, and I can't even believe that I'm saying that.
That postseason performance,
I mean,
he's out.
good Lord. But the stats are there. I mean, the cards are all on the table, and they're face up. You're playing poker with the cards face up. It's Lamar. But, you know, I mean, his offense ranked first in rushing, probably because of him. 4th in scoring, 6th in yards. It's all there. I think it's Lamar. All the way. I got to go. Landslide Lamar.
All right, and Offensive Player of the Year?
All right, this one I also feels like a landslide. I feel like all of these are
Yeah.
pretty cut and dry. I will say the one I could see contending second place, Tyreek Hill. But first, it's got to be CMC. He is the backbone of this 49ers offense, and he's leading in the NFL in scrimmage yards with 2,023, and he has 21 touchdowns. And the fact that the 49ers are in the Super Bowl right now is big thanks to them. Big thanks to him, and he's had a huge impact this postseason. So I know postseason doesn't count, but we got to take into account how important he is to the success of this team, and CMC all the way.
I got to agree. Like you said, it's C-Mac a lot of the way, but behind him is Tyreek Hill. But Christian McCaffrey, like you said, has just been the backbone of the 49ers offense. He's kind of, and I don't want to say put them on his back, but kind of, because when Purdy is lacking, he picks up the slack. But Tyreek's close, but I got to give it to Christian McCaffrey all the way.
And then very quickly, Defensive Player of the Year.
All right, this one I feel also very set in stone. Got to be TJ Watt. He did miss the Steelers' only playoff appearance this year, but he had a stellar regular season. He led the NFL with 19 sacks, 36 quarterback hits, incredible performance, and I feel like who else are you going to give it to?
I got to agree. I have some Steelers bias. I'm a Steelers fan, but I do have to go with TJ Watt here. Close second, Myles Garrett. But TJ Watt has just been an absolute powerhouse. It's been fun to watch him. First in sacks, got a lot of tackles, got a pick to his name too. All the way, TJ Watt, absolutely.
Yes, very glad to hear that name. And while that's all the time we have for this edition of Rocky Talk, we'll now head over to Sophie and Company for a Lady Vols update. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Alexis. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this week's Lady Vol Basketball Update. I'm your host, Sophie Starkey, alongside Alexi Cowan, Jordan Smitherman, and Allie Campbell. Let's jump right in. So the Lady Vols have had a mixed season so far. They've won 14 games, lost 7, and they are second in the SEC. Star forward Rickea Jackson has been dealing with a lower right leg injury. Needless to say, they have faced some ups and downs throughout the year. So, that being said, let's look back on the bright side. What have been the Lady Vols' greatest accomplishments this season? Jordan.
So I think their greatest accomplishments this season is that they've done what they needed to do in SEC play. Like you said, their second SEC play, which is great. They're only behind the undefeated #1 South Carolina Gamecocks. So I think as long as they can keep winning in the SEC, they can get a good seed in the SEC tournament and get themselves a good seed, a favorable seed in the NCAA tournament so that they can maybe make a run. And they're also 9-2 at home, which is good. Road struggles are another thing, but I'm glad they're just holding down the fort in TBA. And as long as they can keep this up, then they can do good in the NCAA tournament and watch out for the Lady Vols.
Absolutely. Allie?
I 100% agree. I would say that their biggest strength is their ability to make so many comeback victories. They have had countless comeback victories this season. I would compare them to Alabama football in the way that they go into that locker room, and I have no idea what's being said, but they come out a completely different team. Jewel Spear, after one of the games, said that they just have the fight and the grit in the second half and the determination to win. So that's been their strong suit, I believe.
Yeah.
One thing that I loved seeing this year was Jewel Spear really stepping into her talent. The past 3 games she led in scoring, which is something we really needed, especially when Rickea Jackson was out. And I also love seeing the team effort. You're always going to have somebody that leads your team, but just seeing everybody stepping up to the plate, you see tons of different girls that are stepping up, making those points, making those assists. So I think we've really bonded and built together as a team this year.
Absolutely. So on the flip side, what has caused the Lady Vols to struggle to stay on a consistent winning streak? Jordan?
So obviously you talk about the obvious, Rickea Jackson going out for a month with a lower leg injury. That really killed them. That made them lose the non-conference games and everything. But with the exception of like 2 games, when they lose bad. Like some of their losses are like 20-point losses, 15-point losses. So it's just bad that when they lose, it's really bad. And also like I mentioned earlier, they're not as good on the road. Like they lost to MTSU, and they're 4-3 on the road compared to the 9-2 at home. So I just think that's making them struggle a little bit too. So if they can pick the road losses back up, then I think they'd be better. But that's unfortunately not the case. So
Yeah. Allie?
I would say their timidness is probably their biggest struggle so far this season. They lost to Ole Miss because they couldn't get that aggression that they needed to succeed and pull through. Yeah, they struggle in the first half. They really do. So if they had more aggression and fight and grit that we see in the second half in the first half, I think that would help them a lot.
Yeah, sure. Alexi?
I have to go with Rickea Jackson, her lower leg injury. I feel like that was just a punch to the face, kind of at the beginning of the season. She missed 8 games, and we lost 4 out of those 8. So I think that really hurt the team. Also, I think that loss to MTSU, I think we had lost 3 straight before that. That was the 4th. People all over the internet were thinking that maybe it's time for a coach change, which I don't really think that's the issue, but I just think it's a team thing. But I think that MTSU loss really got them kind of in a bad mentality.
Yeah, for sure. So In the meantime, they have left before the NCAA tournament. What can the Lady Vols do to get back on track before facing some of these tougher teams? Jordan?
Okay, so like as we said earlier, they face South Carolina, number one in the team, number one in the league, and they're 21-0, so they face them soon. So I think the biggest thing for them to get back on track is continuity and consistency. So they have to keep putting up these numbers. Jewel Spear has to stay consistent, Rakea Jackson has to stay and perform like the star she is. And as long as we get performances from those two, and then maybe some three-pointers or some good games from like Sarah Puckett or Tess Darby, I think that would be really great and really boost the Vols from like here to here to like make sure that they're not just reliant on Jewel Spear and Jackson. And I think they need to play hard and play with effort. Like Ali said, they're a little timid. They're not as aggressive as they should be. So I really think if Coach Harper gets these girls playing hard and with effort, then I think they'll be great.
Absolutely. Ali?
I'm going to totally agree with you on that. I think the consistency just needs to be stronger. Consistent in the first and second half, like I said earlier. They have a weird schedule coming up with a game Thursday and then another game on Monday, so I'm curious to see if that throws them off at all and how they're able to bounce back from that. But from a coaching standpoint, Coach Harper said that she's working on meeting the players where they're at and coaching each player individually for how they need to be coached. So I think that if she really pulls through with that and the girls pull through with consistency, they can have a great rest of the season.
Yeah. Lexi?
I think a big thing for the NCAA tournament is to get in the paint. We have some really good three-point shooters, but when you're trying to win games and get to the next round, onto the next, you have to get shots that you know you can hit. You have to get those layups. You have to get free throws. Have to hit those free throws. So I think that would really be good to get in the paint, use your shots that match the circumstance of the game. Another thing, I've always been really big on this. Rebounding wins your games, especially from the men's game that we saw on Tuesday night. That really hit with me that their rebounding won their game. And so I think that if those girls can jump up there, get those rebounds, that gives them so many more shot opportunities and so many more times going down the floor.
Absolutely. On the topic of women's sports, Wednesday was National Women in Sports Day. So shout out to all of our Lady Vols teams, women in sports, women pursuing sports. Keep doing you. You're doing great, girls. That's all the time we have for this week's Lady Vol basketball update. In the meantime, we will head over to the Orange Zone for a look at the men's basketball team. See you next time, and go Vols.
Appreciate it, Sophie. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Orange Zone. I'm Jackson Schock. That's Zach Pelfrey, Luca Tao, Colton Pennington. We just passed the halfway point in the basketball season, and we on the Orange Zone think it's time to reevaluate this year and what's come for the Vols. So here's how this is going to work. We are going to watch clips from our November 3rd episode where we previewed the season and how things have kind of worked out. And then from there, we're going to make adjustments on our stances if we need to. So let's jump to our first clip. But let's go to men's hoops. Same thing. Players you think that are really going to stand out. Luke, who do you got?
To me, it's Jonas Adu. I mean, I feel like he's just going to grow into a solid player. He's a junior this year, so he's had some experience with the team, and he's going to, continue to share that experience.
Speaking of players that make the team better, Zakai Ziegler had a season-ending injury last year, which took him out for the March Madness tournament. He is the glue that holds this team together. Tennessee is a different team with him on the court.
Yeah, give me Dalton Connect. I mean, transfer Northern Colorado. I mean, led the Big Sky last year in scoring. I honestly think he could lead this team in scoring as well. I mean, Vescovy, he's really just a three-point sniper. There's games where all he takes is three-pointers. But Dalton Connect's a three-way scorer. Mid-range, outside, inside. He can do everything. I think he could be absolutely amazing. He could be the best scorer Tennessee's seen in a really long time. I'm really excited to see him play.
So obviously it's clear that those takes have aged well. Is there anything you want to add to maybe anything there? Luke, go ahead.
Yeah, it's obvious that Colton's pick was probably the best with Dalton Connect.
He had the vision. He definitely had the vision.
He did. I've talked about Adu a lot on the show, and I'm going to continue to do so. This team can shoot threes. Everybody knows this team can shoot the ball well, and we love to see the three-ball fly. It puts up points. But in my opinion, having a strong presence in the post, is a real threat playing these higher-level teams. And the top teams in the country all have really good post players. And working the ball in the post, getting it back out, kicking it out to people, I think that's just incredibly important. So I think, as I mentioned in the clip, I think Adu is going to be still a big part of this team.
Absolutely. Anything else?
I think my pick on Ziegler, he's coming off that ACL injury. He's slowly progressing into the player that he is now. He's back to his former self. We saw him drop 26 against Kentucky like we talked about earlier. So I think Ziegler's really starting to become his former self.
Absolutely.
Double
Yeah.
doubles will do
Round
it.
us out. Round us out, Colton.
Yeah, I mean that went about as well as I thought it could. I mean, I said he could be the leading scorer, let alone like he could be the leading scorer in the history of Tennessee for a season. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, he's now probably the runner-up for National Player of the Year. He's probably going to win SEC Player of the Year.
Yep.
So I mean, the expectations for him were high, but I never knew they'd exceed it like the way they have. He's been one of the best players Tennessee's ever had for sure.
Well, let's go big picture here. Let's look at what you guys, especially Colton, what you thought would happen this season for the Vols. Let's take a look. So, same question, Colton. I'm going to ask you, where do you think the ceiling is and the floor is for this men's hoops team?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee's the best team in the SEC. They're one of the best teams in the country. And I've been going to Tennessee basketball games since I was a kid. And this could be the best Tennessee basketball team we have ever had. I mean, point blank, period. I mean, we got so much depth. I mean, guard position, post position, everything. I'm so excited for this team. I mean, Rick Barnes, he's had some trouble in the tournament in the past, so we could easily see an early round exit like we do a lot. But the national championship is certainly on the cards. I really like Tennessee's chances to finish top in the SEC and make it really far in the NCAA tournament.
So, best team in the SEC, best team possibly of all time. Do we agree? That's a bold claim, especially with the history that Tennessee has had. Colton, I'll let you have the floor first. What do you think?
I think I was correct. I mean, right now, we just got moved into a number 1 seed on Joe Lunardi's bracketology. That happened today. We've never been a 1 seed in the history of Tennessee basketball. So, I mean, if that stays, we're the best team Tennessee's basketball has ever had. And honestly, I mean, when I was picking that, it really wasn't because of Dalton Connect. I mean, it was because of all these guys that we had coming back. Santiago Vescovi was a preseason first-team All-SEC player. Josiah Jordan-James has been a 4-year starter. And those guys really haven't stepped up, haven't been consistent at all. But Dalton Connect, I mean, him averaging 21 points, I think he's averaging still about 27 points in SEC play, which is just ridiculous. He's the reason why we're so high. It's not because of these guys that we've had for the last 3 or 4 years that have been in the team and have experience. It's because of him. And without him, I don't know where we would be this season, to be honest. I mean, he's kept us in so many games. He's allowed us to win so many games. And so he's definitely the linchpin for this team going forward and could make this the best Tennessee basketball team in history.
Zach?
I gotta say, it's got to be close if it is compared to one of the best Tennessee basketball teams. Dalton Connect is he has made our team compete for anything. I mean, we can go to the Final Four. This team as a total, as long as it's clicking, we can go. The upside is so much bigger than the downside. And my eyes, I think we can go probably to the Final Four, maybe
Knock on
further.
wood. Knock on wood. Seriously, Luke, round us out.
I mean, I obviously 100% agree with the SEC pick. I think it's clear that Tennessee is one of the best, if not the best teams in the SEC. And, I mean, hey, never been a 1 seed, never won a national championship. I might be throwing it out there, but we'll see.
Let's hope so.
Until now.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching Torch Sports. And for more content, you can follow us on Instagram at Torch Sports UTK and on TikTok at Torch Sports. That's a mouthful. We're going to look forward to seeing you right back here next week. Thanks for watching. Peace.